So we've got two packages here. I guess before I open those, non-anime purchase. Hey, look, it's Wind Waker HD. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's also get this out of the way real quick. I got another Hentai DVD, a re-release of Punishments. And we'll just open these up. This package, of course, contains all of the Amazon movies. And this one would be a Right Stuff order, which they don't usually send them in these boxes, so I don't know what's up with this. I do know that it feels extra sticky. Wonder, I don't see anything for quick opening of it, so I'm just going to work on pulling it apart. It's all sticky and stuff. Okay. Sorry. We're making progress. And there we go. So this, of course, would be the receipt. And we've got very unusual. I mean, Right Stuff release packages generally have these papers, but as you can see, AKB 0048 Season 1 advertisement and another Right Stuff sticky pad. I will just add that to the pile. And there we go. Let's start digging through these. Let's begin with this one. This is We Without Wings. Don't remember what the advertisement was like, but I remember seeing it. On something I watched this week. So we got two volumes, I guess. I'm going to check this time. DVD, Blu-ray. This does not look like an invertible cover. It's also a little bit more perverted than I thought it was at first. Just a bit more. And then we've got the second volume. That also looks fairly perverted. And we've got DVD 2 and Blu-ray 2. It says put your tissues to the test, so I guess it does sound fairly perverted. Here's the Blu-ray version of Queen's Blade Rebellion, which as you can see, shipped just at the right time. You may recall that I got the DVD version last week. And, yeah, well, here we go. Here's the Blu-ray version, and this plastic is, not wanting to come off in one piece. Unfortunately, there's no one piece this week. So here we have soundtrack one. So like the DVD version, it has the two soundtracks. And then we've got our two Blu-ray discs. You know, since the DVD version just back here, let's see which actually they did different artwork for the fronts, didn't they? Interesting. In fact, did they do different artwork for the discs as well? Interesting. That doesn't happen too often with Sentai Filmwork releases. Next up, we got the latest Naruto Shippuden release, set 16. Which obviously has Gara on the fronts. And let's see. Nothing complicated about the inside as usual. Although it is interesting to note that, like the latest Bleach release, it has 2 discs. But let's see. Can I do this math real fast? 205, 1, 2. So that's 13 episodes. And that's okay. So that's 6 episodes and 6 or 7. Okay, 7 and 6 episodes. So yeah, okay. This has 13 episodes, which is your standard, but on 2 discs instead of on 3. A slight change from Viz's norm, but the last Bleach set suggested this might happen. Then, of course, here we have Phi-Brain Puzzle of the God, the Orpheus Order, which is Season 2, and this is Collection 2 DVD and Blu-ray versions. And it's good that this arrived. I'm currently in between series, so I'm on the verge of starting one of these up. So it'll probably be Phi-Brain Season 2, since I do have the Season 2 first collection out in my to-watch area. So we have these 3 discs, and then these might all be different. It's really hard to tell because I can see that image is the same, but those are different. So chances are, oh no, look, no. Well, that, and that are the same here, and those are the same. Those 2 are different. Very, very interesting. I wonder if this is Sentai doing something new. And then, of course, there was the Right Stuff package, which is Brave 10, the latest NIS release, which I don't know much about. And I know I originally overlooked it because I like B something 10-0. Is that Ben 10? Okay, I can skip that because that's not anime. But of course, it wasn't Ben 10. It was Brave 10. I'm not making any judgments about Ben 10. I'm just saying it's not anime, so it's not going to be part of the anime collection. Okay, now that's interesting. Wow, there's 2 of them. There's 3 of them. Huh. 2 more advertisements than I really need. But I'm going to keep them all in here. Maybe in the future I'll remember, oh yeah, they had too many in here. Disc 2. And as usual, they have a book. I don't know much about the series itself. Obviously, if I didn't recognize the name as an anime name, then I wouldn't. But looks like your standard NIS book. Lots of pictures and information about the series, characters, artwork. I might have to read up. One thing I noticed, though, that these aren't perfectly aligned like they have been for previous releases. Not a big issue, but a notable one. But yeah, there we go. That's this week's anime DVD collection update. And as for things I've watched, let's see. Well, I guess I think I finished High School DxD last time, right? So that means that the next thing I watched was Sarea. You know, this one, Undying Love. One thing I noticed that was interesting is that even though they say DVD and Blu-ray 1 and 2, it turned out the DVDs were both in the first one and the Blu-rays were both in the second. Not a problem. It meant I had all my DVD and all my Blu-ray discs, but it was a rather unexpected twist that I didn't expect from the packaging. So the content of the series, I thought it was a interesting concept, interesting main character, and there's some parts where he really stood out in his interestingness. But, well, maybe this is just a problem with there being only one season. I was kind of hoping they would explore the concept of the series a little bit better. And maybe that's for future stuff. As it is now, it kind of stuck pretty much to the character interactions, which wasn't bad. I actually thought it was pretty good. But it felt like they tried way too hard to make the father creepy, I guess. And so, to a certain degree, I'm like, maybe it's just uncomfortable watching it, or it kind of maybe breaks the suspension of disbelief a bit because it's just trying too hard, maybe. I don't know. But it wasn't so bad that I wasn't able to say, oh, it's still a fun concept. And childhood friend girl was pretty annoying. Well, let's see. After that, what did I do? I guess I mentioned last week rewatching Squid Girl. So for whatever reason, this week I felt like rewatching Stelvia of the Universe. You know, they're both S's, so I added their data to my streaming service so that I could watch them from wherever. And I put the data for Stelvia and Squid Girl on there at the same time and kind of felt like rewatching Stelvia. Why? I'm not sure. I mean, watching it and then thinking about it, I kind of understand why there's a bit of a draw to the series for me. Because it begins in a way that draws me in. Maybe it does the same for other people. Where it's kind of like, oh, yeah, she's an amusing character. The way they represent programming doesn't really make sense to a programmer, but it's just like, whatever. I try not to think about it. It bugs me a lot because it's more like playing games than programming. And then there's this entire problem that I'll get into that later. But basically, it sets it up where our main character, she's really good at programming, but not so good at flying or something or the other. And then because she's able to kind of combine the two and stop trying to do everything at once, basically, she flips around from really bad to just really good. And I remember watching it this time being like, yeah, because I get to cheer for the underdog, and that being really fun, and that's kind of the draw that brought me in initially. Also, it comes with an interesting backstory. And I guess part of the reason I wanted to watch it is because not only is the backstory neat, but I actually really like the twists it takes on a macro level. But watching it, I can understand why. I think the last time I tried to rewatch it, I didn't go too much longer, and that's because, well, that initial cheering for the underdog thing, well, all of a sudden somebody else comes out of nowhere who's better than her, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for her, but it almost felt like the series was more about him. And watching it this time, and then taking into account how the characters act, beyond that point, I can't help but wonder who the target audience was. You know, I never questioned it, never thought about it, but it occurred to me it's a lot more relationshipy than I give it credit for, and I'm not saying this in a good way because it kind of plays with this men are stupid, women are smart, complex creatures sort of thing. And the thing I was talking about before about the programming being really unrealistic is kind of related to that, simply because there's a reason why computer science departments tended to, well, at least for the college I went to, the computer science department was born out of the mathematics department, because there's a lot of logical structure and analysis to computer science. I mean, the entire idea of computer science is just the science of computation. Basically, what can you prove about what can you do? And it's actually a lot closer to mathematical proof than a scientific proof where you come up with mathematical proofs for stuff. You know, like you can even take a program and say, I can prove this program will do exactly what it's supposed to do. Program proof of correctness. Thank God I don't have to do that outside of college, because that was a fucking headache. Unlike the headache I have now, which is just a dehydration headache. But basically, there's a very logical and rational side to being a programmer, and to be a good programmer, you generally have to be. I mean, even beyond that, the kind of games they set up for the programming in Stelvio of the Universe seems more like they'd be closer to logic puzzle games than just any motor skills or anything like that. So I can't help but feel like there's a bit of a disconnect there, where our main character is probably one of the least logical and rational, while one of the most logical and rational. I think I've probably mentioned this kind of complaint before with like Special A, where our main girl is supposedly so good at everything, something I don't really think you could do if you had her lack of attention to detail. I mean, she's not good at cooking, she's not good at cooking, but the problem is that when she approaches cooking for the first time, she does it with an extreme lack of attention to detail, where it's just like, she doesn't seem to grasp concepts well, and so Special A gave me a sort of disconnect between the scenario they set up and the character they set up. Stelvio of the Universe kind of does that the same way, but like I said, rewatching it, I still enjoyed the major twists it had, and I kind of appreciated them a bit better because I didn't go into it this time saying, oh yeah, I'm going to go to this anime cheering for the underdog. You go, underdog. Instead, I just got into it because she was the underdog and I was cheering for her. I'm like, all right, now, just watch it and see how I think. And I enjoyed rewatching it. I'm talking about it quite a bit, I know, but let's see. I watched Naruto Shippuden movie 4. A lot of timing for that sort of thing is that I would watch it with a friend, and we've been trying to finish up a whole lot of stuff lately. So, now that we've finished up a lot of stuff, it was, of course, oh, can we watch Naruto Shippuden movie 4? Oh, yes, we can. What do I mean by can? I mean, I look for the air date of the movie and see which episodes it comes in between in the series. The idea being that if you were in Japan watching the series as it came out and you were into Naruto, you'd probably go from watching the series to the theater to watch the version there and then back to the series. So anything that about the powers the characters develop, the skills the characters develop, is a potential spoiler in a movie that's way ahead of you. This would be the reason why I'm not going to watch One Piece Strong World for a long time. Because I don't want insight into how things are going to change by watching a movie that's that far into the One Piece series, that much further into the One Piece series than I am. So I'll probably be waiting forever to watch it, I guess. I don't know. And so that's why Naruto Shippuden movie 4 was delayed being watched. I had to check that, and overall, I thought the movie was set up with some interesting concepts, but it had some real execution flaws. I kind of felt like the pacing was wrong. Like it lacked appropriate build-up. There's some aspects of it that actually remind me of DBZ Movie 2, World's Strongest, which is my favorite of the Dragon Ball Z movies. And that one, I think, if you compare and contrast the two in terms of a build-up towards a confrontation with something that's dangerous, DBZ Movie 2 is definitely far superior to this. No, of course, I don't think it's fair to just compare and contrast the two, but it was an interesting observation I made where it's just like, oh, this tower thingy, and it's keeping this thing powered. So that reminds me a lot of DBZ Movie 2. And I thought that while watching it. And I didn't compare it while watching at the time, just remembered the similarity for analysis afterwards. And again, like I said, there were some interesting concepts explored in there, but I thought the pacing was wrong. And the other problem is that it's a bit repetitive. I don't know how many times the characters other than Naruto decided to stop moving forward, to turn back to look at him. He said, "Don't stop now! Keep going, lead your people!" And that happens over and over and over and over and over. It was like a broken record, which sometimes I feel like the Naruto series is, but it's a broken record on a slower scale, so it isn't as grating, I thought. So, I mean, it wasn't horrible to watch. It was just, it didn't feel right. But I also didn't miss the fact that on the DVD and the Blu-ray there is a short on there that I'm guessing probably aired in theaters before the movie itself. I'm guessing this because it's on both the DVD and the Blu-ray version, and it's linked on AnimeDB and MyAnimeList.net. It's linked to movie 4, which makes me think they were both in theaters together for some reason. And there would be no other reason for the link other than the fact that the same characters are in it. The reason there's still difference is the short takes place in the Naruto time frame. Just involves Naruto finding a magic lamp with 3 wishes, a genie that grants 3 wishes in it. You know, the stereotypical, and then everybody fights over it. Ha ha ha! Funny little short, and that was amusing. Could have been better, but it's actually pretty good in terms of Naruto's worst moments, I guess. And remember, by worst moments, I'm talking about most of the filler stuff that happens in Naruto, which is similar to the 4th movie in that it feels repetitive. I'm feeling kind of repetitive talking about that a bit more. But all that stuff aside, I also watched Is This a Zombie Season 2. And I also watched the OVAs that came with it. Of course, it's kind of hard not to because Funimation kind of set them up so that there's constant streams. Sort of like the first season had the first 12 episode series, I think, and then the first episode of the first OVA at the very end, which is where it's supposed to be, so you have all of that in one go. And then this one starts with the second episode of that 2-episode thing, which is the 0th episode of the second season, and then the second season, and then an OVA that takes place after, sort of like the previous first episode of the first OVA. I know it's confusing talking about it like that, but basically, I thought it was fun. I had some trouble remembering what happened in the first one. I had to kind of jump through the DVDs a bit just to say, yeah, oh yeah, that. For whatever reason, even though there's a lot of anime out there, I'm just like, this anime seems to be totally focused on, ha ha ha, the male got hurt, and I don't really find that funny. And this one seems to be pretty strong in that too, so I'm not quite sure why I find it more enjoyable. My hypothesis is that it's just so much more absurd than anything else out there. I mean, I describe it to people who wouldn't understand the context just because they would so very not understand the context, they'd just be completely lost. Just because it's fun to do that sometimes. And story-wise, I guess there kind of were 2 stories. The first season kind of had 2 stories as well, I think. So, amusing. I actually found the first one more amusing, but I guess I don't want to talk too much about it because part of the fun of this series is just experiencing the absurdity, all the craziness it decides to do. And now we're here, and like I said, I'm probably going to watch Phi-Brain Season 2, but that's for later. It occurs to me that a couple of weeks ago I probably mentioned that I'd seen the charge for the Little Witch Academia Blu-ray, but had received no emails for its sending. It occurred to me earlier today that I have received an email, and it was maybe the day after I made that comment, in which they were saying there were delays in it and it would be shipping maybe closer to now. I don't remember because there's another date floating around where the Kickstarter stuff for the... Man, I knew what it was a little before. Oh well, it's that second Kickstarter thing. Why can't I remember the name? Oh well, the T-set stuff is supposed to ship from Japan in next week or something like that. So there's a couple of things coming in. I can't think of any other notable delays other than... No, that wasn't a delay, that was just... Oh, and as people pointed out, this was definitely the censored version. I kind of noticed it while watching it, but at the same time didn't really care because I didn't want to see that person's guts hanging out on the screen. I would have handled it just fine if it was, but I kind of noticed that was censored. Who knows what else was censored, but I'll have to figure out picking up the non-censored version or finding out what Funimation wants to do. I don't really want to send them this because I like the fact that they made a mistake and I like to hold on to those mistakes. I have a pile of mistakes. Those are fun. I think that's everything. I can't think of anything else to talk about, so y'all have a nice week.